Good morning, students. You all know about photosynthesis. You have studied about photosynthesis, the definition, chlorophyll, chloroplast, then various adaptation in plants to facilitate photosynthesis or to maximize or to optimize the process. Then various steps in the previous last class we have studied about the chemical reactions, so light dependent and light independent reactions. After that, the products formed. So products formed or products how they are utilized by the organisms, or how plants are useful for other organisms by releasing oxygen and all. But today we'll study about only three topics of this chapter, which is factors affecting photosynthesis, factors which are internal and external factors. Then the next is importance of photosynthesis. Importance we have also studied, but still under this heading, since this topic is given in your book, so importance of photosynthesis. Then carbon cycle, how the carbon which is utilized by the plant again rotated to the atmosphere. So complete cycle or complete process of this carbon dioxide which is taken in and released out by various organisms. So let's start with this. For today only three topics are there. So let's start with the first one, which is the process of factors affecting photosynthesis. Factors affecting photosynthesis is external factors. This one, external factor, which is the light intensity, CO2 concentration, temperature and water content. First one is the light intensity. If it is not clear in the video, so just write. First is the light intensity, CO2 concentration, temperature and water content. First one is the light intensity. With the light intensity, that process of photosynthesis increases but up to particular level, up to the optimum temperature, the process stops or gets, and the process saturates, because the CO2 concentration here, CO2 versus and a graph is plotted here, which is the graph is about the rate of photosynthesis. Is it clear in the video? If it is no, here. Graph plotted against rate of photosynthesis and CO2 concentration with increased intensity, increasing intensity of light. Now what happens in this case? The rate of photosynthesis increases up to a mark. This mark is mentioned as S dash. At this level, the CO2 concentration is 0.02%, and at this level, the process of photosynthesis gets saturated or stabilizes. So this stabilized level, when it reaches the rate of photosynthesis, as you can see in the starting of the graph, a line comes. This line shows that a linear change, that is with the increased intensity, rate of photosynthesis also increases. After reaching the saturation or optimum intensity, the CO2 concentration is also 0.02%. It reaches, it is saturates or stabilizes. If by any other means, if the CO2 concentration is increased here at this point, then what happens that with the increase in CO2 concentration, it for the rate of photosynthesis further increases up to a level which is S dash double dash here, and this level is 0.05% of CO2 concentration. After that, it stabilizes. So this level of photosynthesis, increase intensity, light intensity, with the increase in light intensity, photosynthesis increases, but up to a optimum intensity only. After that, the process stabilizes or decreases. Decreases because the enzymes they get killed at high light intensities. So this one. Next is CO2 concentration. CO2 concentration, and the starting initial is point up to 0.02%. If by other any means it is increased up to 0.05%, then the photosynthesis increases. After that, again a stability is gained and the process stops. Then temperature, in this case, rate of photosynthesis is dependent on temperature. With every 10 degree rise, with every 10 degree rise of temperature, the rate of photosynthesis gets doubled. But this is up to the temperature 35 degrees Celsius only. That is 10 to 20, 20 to 30, or 12 to 22 or 32. With every 10 degree rise, there is double, the rate of photosynthesis gets doubled, but up to 35. After that, it starts decreasing. Above 35, decreases, and at 40 degrees Celsius, it stops. Why it stops? Because the enzymes responsible for the process or required for the process of photosynthesis, they get killed or they get destroyed at this temperature. So the process increases with the temperature up to 35. After 35 it decreases, and at 40 it stops because of the enzymes getting destroyed with high temperature and high light intensity also. Then last is the water content. If by any reason, because of any reason or due to scarcity of water, the water is not available to the plants, then it results in closure of the stomata. Closure of the stomata means less diffusion of CO2. If CO2 is less, then the photosynthesis process automatically decreases or slows down. So water is not is an important component, but not as essential as CO2 for plant. So this, because some of the water is always available in the surrounding leaves, but if the cells are not turgid, if the water is not enough to create turgidity among the cells or to create swelling in the guard cells of stomata, so that it results in closure of stomata, closing of stomata, decreases diffusion of gases, diffusion of CO2 gas. CO2 is less, there is less photosynthesis. Next is the internal factors. First is the chlorophyll. Due to deficiency of some of the nutrients, as you know that it is made up of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen and magnesium as the main product. So deficiency of any of these components would result in less chlorophyll number. Less chlorophyll means less photosynthesis, because chlorophyll is the main pigment for the process of photosynthesis. So there is decreased level of photosynthesis. There is protoplasm. If the amount of protoplasm, or if the protoplasm is less because of less water content, less availability of water, protoplasm is less, means closure of stomata, then reduced photosynthesis. Decrease in photosynthesis process. Structure of leaf is very important for photosynthesis. Broad leaf facilitates more light absorption. Then this position of leaf on the plant also facilitates light absorption. So this, if the number of stomata, if the number of chlorophyll, if the size of leaf, all these, then thick cuticle. If cuticle is thick, then also photosynthesis process gets affected. So all these factors are the internal factors which affect the process. If these factors are in favor, then a process is enhanced. If these factors are not in favor, or less in number, or less amount, or scarcity, then reduced or decreased photosynthesis process. Next is the importance of photosynthesis. Importance of photosynthesis we have also already studied, that photosynthesis results in production of glucose. Glucose is utilized to form starch and protein materials. And since in the food chain, grass or the plants are the first trophic level of a food chain. Suppose we are taking an example of here grass is eaten up by the grasshopper, then by frog, then by a snake, and last it is a peacock. Here. In this food chain, all the members of this food chain, all the levels of this food chain, the trophic levels, this one first, second, third and last, these are directly or indirectly dependent on this grass, which performs photosynthesis, and photosynthesis as the main food product. Food of grass is taken up by the grasshopper, then the frog, snake and peacock in successive manner. This transportation of carbon or the energy produced by the grass, this energy is transported or the energy is transferred to each level with a 10% loss of the process, and with a decreased energy at each level. So decreased energy, but the ultimate source of energy is grass. And grass, for the grass, the ultimate source is photosynthesis, source of food. So importance of photosynthesis is, it is food for all. First importance is food for all. By this reason, you can give an example of any of the food chain for this to justify your answer. Then second thing is, importance is oxygen. Oxygen required for respiration. Oxygen for respiration. All living forms require oxygen for respiration process. Even plants require oxygen for respiration. So all these oxygen comes from the process of photosynthesis. This food for all, then oxygen, all these things are the importance of photosynthesis. Next is the carbon cycle. Carbon which is 0.03% in atmosphere, and it is utilized by the plants for the process of photosynthesis. CO2 is utilized by the plants, which is the producer at the in the food chain, producer, or it is the first trophic level of the food chain. So it is the CO2 is utilized by the producer during the process of photosynthesis. It is transferred to the consumer, then to the decomposer. Decomposers are the bacteria and fungi which act on the dead and decaying substances. So they decompose the dead material or the dead bodies of the consumers. These all are the consumers of the grass is the producer and all are the consumers. After the death of these organisms, they are decomposed by the bacterial action. All these bacterial or microorganisms which act on the dead substances, the decomposers, they utilize the carbon of the consumer. Again, after the death of decomposer, all these things, and by the decay and combustion or the respiration process, CO2 is again released back to the atmosphere. This is the atmosphere, atmospheric CO2. Then all these living forms, they, when they die, they become fossilized, or fossilization of these organisms. They get buried under the soil or under the sea level. So this, which results in fossilization or formation of fossil fuels like coal, oil, gas, and this sorry, this one, and the burning of these fuels and limestones, or heating of limestone in the kiln, results in the release of CO2 into the atmosphere, and again this cycle continues. So this is the carbon cycle, how carbon is rotating, carbon cycle. This is very important for examination, carbon cycle. Now for the diagram, this diagrammatic representation is also important for this. So diagrammatic representation as well as explanation of this. Questions related to this one, all these three terms. First one, how photosynthesis is referred to as process for producing food for all. Second question, what are the external factors affecting photosynthesis, or it may be any of the factors may be mentioned. What is the role of this factor in or how this factor affects photosynthesis. Then external or internal factors. The question would be on both the external as well as internal factors. Then last, carbon cycle, diagrammatic representation or explanation. If explanation is mentioned, still you have to draw this diagram to write your answer. First make the diagram, this representation, diagrammatic representation of the carbon cycle, and then you can explain the process. So this is all about the factors and all. In the next class, we will study about the experimental proof that starch is produced from starch, which is in the stored form of photosynthesis. Then factors, then chlorophyll pigment, role of chlorophyll pigment, or role of oxygen or carbon dioxide. All these factors, experiments, will study in the next class. Thank you for today's class.